Kosher Catfish here. Talk to you today with something different. Got a whole new equilibrium on my head. The equilibrium is 8 holes. It's 8 holes. Not 8 holes, it's 8 holes. You'll see that. You'll see that. You'll see that. I did not bow to you. I was showing you the 8-hole thing on my head. Well, the 8-hole thing on my head is the octatetrahedral thing. It had 8 holes in it, and it's like a new beginning. The octatetrahedral thing, and that's the best I can explain it, because where I live, we don't talk that way very often, and we just forget them patterns in our head. Anyway, what we got to talk about today have to do with the conflict. Now, Kosher Catfish turn on the news. No, not really. I try to listen to various Sunday people that I sort of trust to get some information and, some spiritual things from my own understanding and the reading and doing research of this various Sunday things. And we look around, and what we got everywhere is the conflict. Now, Kosher Catfish did not understand the whole definition of the conflict because back in the day when I started being aware of such things, I saw a movie. It's a movie with this man with a horse face on it, and it's like a con air. And that's what it was. It's a con air. Not the kind you blow your hair dry with and stuff like that. It's a con air. To me, if I was going to take my girlfriend somewhere and see criminals, I'd have took her to see the conflict, because it was a very good flick, and it's about cons. So that's the way Kosher Catfish understood that. Then over time, I learned about the history and learned about the people and learned about resolution and conflict of resolution in the family and in at large, and there's another Sunday place where you have a conflict. Kosher Catfish had the hang on of something though, and I wrote it down because I can't remember a whole lot of stuff. It is just okay. We already got past the movie Con Air. Okay, the cigarette butt. Usually, the people I knew back where I come from, various things, they'd be standing around the floor, and there's like ex-cons and stuff, and they flicker those cigarette butt. So that's a con flicking the butt. So I figured that was another perfectly good understanding of the idea of conflict. Well, let's go to a larger theater. The con. Do the lie and the switch. The switcheroo. So you got somebody that's a con. And the Kosher Catfish has met very slimy like creatures from the Black Lagoon, because I was from the boot, and sometimes you had people just slither off in there and come up and be nasty. So there you had the old con, the switcheroo. And what I realized, I was trying to look at the etymology. I haven't officially done it. I just wrote that stuff on my reciprocating saw blade thing, because that's what I was going to talk about. The conflict. Everywhere we look, we got the conflict. So, is that like a bunch of criminals making a movie? Because Catfish thinks that must be what the conflict is, because they got the conflict here and the conflict there, conflict everywhere, all up in your head, in your family, all these places. The conflict. I think someone's making a very, very bad movie. The Con Air was sort of a good movie, but there's still murderers and nasty people that did nasty stuff in there. And people's like, oh, what a good movie. Let's violate them for some kind of national award. No. What it was? The conflict. So, is we just making a bad movie by a bunch of criminals? Or is the cons just dumping our little old meaty asses on down the road in some, hurting situation? Or the conflict? How do we deal with the conflict? Well, Kosher Catfish been thinking about that. First, you must be able to define the conflict. What Kosher Catfish realizes, once you define it, then at some point negotiations can take over, and it can be resolved. But I guess resolution is a very cheap process, and it requires being humble, and it requires doing various certain things to include someone other than your own self-interest. So the conflict. Why can't we just do like the Kabbalistic approach and various and sundry, get geometric approach? Well, we got the eight. You know what that is, the eight. Why can't we have a new beginning to understand conflict and realize the conflict is not with just you. CRT, the old cathode ray tube. He's this sucker sitting here watching me. He's just looking at me. I see it. And I can't do nothing about it because this is my old Horn Hawk CRT, and I, saved it from the junk pile of the old electronic stuff. But the Ivory Tower CRT, that's one that has manipulated us. And done what it do till everybody's pissed off everybody else. And that's a conflict. The conflict starts with inside the individual. The conflict starts like a cancer. Just one being pissed off at a time. Until at some point, everybody just all up in each other's the conflict. So without a foundation, you can't have a new 8-hole nation. Because they're going to end up just being an 8-hole nation. Anyway, those Kosher Catfish has thought about the conflict. It's one of a number of things. Either there's some criminals making a very large movie about the reality of the universe, and everyone is archetyped and they do their thing. And we got gigantic supercomputers or creatures with large brains consuming the information. It's a movie. I'm not sure about that, but that's, it's a possibility. Number two. What is number two? It's just criminals dumping us. They're just dumping us onto the dustbin of history. I guess it could be that too. The third part, it's just the inside of the man. The man get out of hand. Go back and get a message in your heart. The holidays is fixing to start. Praise to y'all. That's what we're looking for. Kosher Catfish be looking for that resolution. Real, final, solution. Anyway, the conflict. Conflicts from inside the individual. I'd like to say it's just like when you go out to the duck blind and everything, conflict is with you and the duck. But actually, there's no conflict with you and the duck. You just shooting a duck because you're going to eat the duck or mount the duck or whatever you're going to do with the duck. That's not a conflict. CRT create conflict. That's why Kosher Catfish got the metal 8-hole yarmulke on top of my head. And because it do what it do, and I think it shielded most of the stuff out because I think I got my message across. The conflict is within. It is sin. Let's turn back. King's coming. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I mean it. Praise the Yah. Kosher Catfish, I want to explain another thing. Another place where the conflict can come in. What that's in the way? Who is that? Oh, okay. Anyway, when we was on the bus, when we was little kids, we had like an hour and a half ride because we lived way out of hell out there. Excuse me. Kosher Catfish have an issue with his throat today. Anyway, we live way out there. We'd ride the bus, and when you was a little kid, you sort of like you got to sit in one place, and then sit here, and then the ugly kids sat there, and then some other kids sat wherever they do, and then the bad kids sat in the back. Well, Kosher Catfish, on occasion, since I sort of one of the last ones, I got stuck to the back, and then there's some of them youngins back there, and I knew eventually they went to jail and stuff. And then flick you on the back of your ear. Now that's a con flicking right there. It's like a flick you on the back of your ear. You go, oh, bus driver, help me, this man flicking my ear. And he just sat there, not to me. It was him. Anyway, that was one of them con flickings that I remembered that I figured I better stick in here. Because it was the real thing. It's a real thing. Kosher Catfish experienced it when I was a little boy. And so, flick my ear. That's why partially the way they look like they do. Anyway, this is all I wanted to say. I'm sorry. It's a Me Too situation.